This comes after, of course, his alleged ties to former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange became the forefront of the special counsel's probe. Last week, Corsi told us he would never lie before a federal judge in order to target the president.
Well, if I have to die in jail over this to get the point across to the American people that this is not the standard of justice in America I grew up with, I'll die in jail. I will not swear before a judge to a lie.
Jerome Corsi taking the battle against a special counsel to a formal Justice Department complaint, ethics and criminal complaint. Joining me now to take up Mueller's witch hunt and his efforts to turn witnesses against this president, Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, author of the book Spygate, The Attempted Sabotage of Donald J. Trump. We urge you to buy the book and read it as soon as you can. Dan, good to see you. Good to see you. First, the issue with Corsi. He says that this flat out, he was being blackmailed for the special counsel trying to force him to commit perjury against the President of the United States.
Well, Lou, listen, prosecutors at the federal level, Bob Mueller or whoever it may be, trying to push witnesses into testifying to something is nothing new. Here's the problem here, Lou. What are they trying to get him to testify to? Nobody, do you understand, Lou, that nobody has pled guilty to the actual conspiracy charge yet? In other words, what the Democrats and the liberal media and the swamp rat types, the rodents in D.C. in this swamp, have been telling us for months is there's this big collusion conspiracy out there between Trump and the Russians to impact the election, right? If we all agree that that's out there, right? Nobody's pled guilty to the conspiracy charge. I mean, people get arrested for things all the time. When is the prosecutor, Bob Mueller, going to get someone who actually has some knowledge of this collusion thing he's talking about?
When are the American people going to wise up to one central fact? That the Republican Party is working as hard against this president as the Democratic Party. Otherwise, this thing would be over. If McConnell and Ryan had stood up and said, it's over, it would be over. It is stunning to me to watch what this country is tolerating in the name of partisan politics. It is disgusting. It's appalling. And there is going to be hell to pay because there will be payback. Don't you agree?
Lou, yeah, of course. Not just are the Republicans a jellyfish-like spineless group of amoebas on this, in the fact that they won't hold Mueller's the most powerful man in America right now, Lou.
Oh, yeah.
He has no oversight at all. The president's subjected to a potential impeachment by the Constitution. We can have judges removed. Congressmen and women can be voted out of office. What, Bob Mueller, nobody cares. Jeff Flake loves him. The swamp loves him. The Democrats think he's the greatest thing ever. The media celebrates this guy. This guy's conducting the biggest scam in modern American history. This witch hunt, nonsensical garbage investigation into a conspiracy that doesn't exist. This is the first conspiracy case I've seen, analyzing this as a former federal agent, where nobody actually pleads guilty to the actual conspiracy. We're going to have people pleading guilty to jaywalking next. I mean, this is unbelievable. This and people are falling for it. And Lou, one more thing. Republicans were involved also in this scheme to target Trump, not just covering for Mueller. Right. I'm not a big book plugger or anything, but it's pretty detailed, laid out in my book and Greg Jarrett's and others. The Republicans are involved in this too.
Oh, absolutely. That's why. That's why I said this thing would be over if the leadership of the Republican Party had any guts and any principles whatsoever.
No, they don't.
But we know
the Democrats, if this was them, Lou, if this shoe was on the other foot, the Democrats, listen, I am no fan of liberal ideology, you know that. But the Democrats would have shut this thing down 6 months ago knowing there's no there. Nope, the Republicans just let it go. Biggest scam in American history.
When you look at how did you style them, spineless amoebas? The fact is,
jellyfish.
The Republican Party, there's very good likelihood that Robert Mueller will still be in the office of the special counsel a decade from now. unless somebody takes action. Sure. Dan, great to have you with us as always. Dan Bongino.
Joining me right now, former Bush 43 senior advisor Brad Blakeman, who worked on several presidential campaigns, along with former Hillary Clinton campaign advisor Antoine Seawright. Good to see you both. Brad, I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about the opposition research part of this, because you know, this is why nobody likes politics, right? It's dirty, awful business. But what goes on during that opposition research stuff? I mean, is that the time when you dig and you dig and you dig? And don't both sides do this?
Absolutely. Look, there couldn't be a football game if you didn't have an offensive team and a defensive team. Mm-hmm. You have to know what your opposition is capable of, what they've done, what they're likely to do, all within the bounds of the law. And all by gaining information, getting an edge. And by the way,
do you ever do that internationally? I mean, I'm just curious because, you know, Hillary Clinton, her team going out and commissioning that dossier.
Sure.
So that's normal, right? Course of business. You would go and okay.
In a small world as we're living in now, information comes from a lot of sources. The question is, are your sources legal? Is the information obtained legally? That's where you have to act within the bounds of law. If you're
but you can obtain the information, right? You can have a conversation. So let me just fast forward this, and Antoine, I'm going to bring you into this in a second. But let's assume that Donald Trump Jr. had that meeting with the Russian lawyer who maybe was promising a little more than she had in the way of dirt, if you would, on Hillary Clinton. Is that okay to have? Can you have a meeting like that, Brad?
Yes, you can have any number of meetings within the boundaries of law to find out whatever information you can on your opposition. And by the way, Democrats are famous for this. And by the way, there wasn't collusion in 2016 with regard to Russians, but there was with regard to Democrats. The Hillary campaign worked in a conspiracy to deny Bernie Sanders the nomination. They fixed the delegates.
Okay, so
they fixed the delegates, and they tried to.
Hang on. You threw a grenade out there, so I got to let Antoine respond to that, and then I want to ask him about this opposition research thing. Antoine.
Brad, it is Friday night political malpractice for you to repeat such words as you just said. You just said
you don't
Hillary
think that you guys made it hard for Bernie?
You just said Hillary Clinton campaign stopped Bernie Sanders from his way to the nomination.
They tried.
That is false. That is absolutely false. I'm telling you, as a Democrat, that is absolutely false. And you shouldn't say that because it's not true. What we do know about Trump collusion in Russia is that the special prosecutor is doing his work, and he should be allowed to defend us. From day one, the story has changed 3, 4, 10, 12 times. First, it was no contacts. First, it was no business dealers. Now we have business dealers. First, Donald Trump Jr. didn't go to a meeting. Then he went to a meeting. All these things have changed so many times.
Happened,
so
what do you think? I'm sure, because this is what I was saying to my team today. Like, what is it that they really think? What do you think? I mean, and what do you know, some of your friends that also worked on the Hillary Clinton campaign think? What do you think actually happened? What's your sort of worst case scenario?
I can't speak for anyone but Antoine Orlando Seawright. And what I can tell you what I think, Trish, I think that the Trump campaign did seek information and guidance from the Russians to
but there's nothing wrong with seeking information or maybe getting advice, right? There's nothing illegal there.
What I also think, as the special prosecutor continues to do his work, we're going to find out some things that we would have not ordinarily found out without this investigation going on. And I think it's wrong for Republicans to say that Mueller doesn't know what direction he's going in. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's all a witch hunt, when along the way he is finding out things that we all would be convicted for if they were known about.
It sounds like you guys don't. It sounds like you really think that by sharing information that's somehow a crime. And I guess I would just go back to the fact that we live in a very global place. And, you know, I have friends from all over the world. Am I not allowed to talk to them because they're from another country and maybe they're providing me with information that somehow it's now illegal? I mean, this is information, right? We have freedom of speech in this country. You can talk to people. You can talk to anyone you want.
Trish,
and
I never said that was wrong.
Okay, Antoine, respond to that, and then final word to Brad.
I never said sharing information was wrong, but what I do know is that colluding with a foreign power is wrong, particularly when that foreign power has hacked into our elections, which Democrats
in this case?
Which Democrats and Republicans agree upon. So, I mean, that's fine.
I don't know. I feel like you're grasping at straws there, and unless you can tell me that Donald Trump hired someone to hack into Podesta's emails and then turned it over to WikiLeaks, I mean, I don't understand where the crime is in all of this.
The special prosecutor is going to help you out.
I worry. Well, I don't. That's where he doesn't know what he's looking for. He doesn't know.
How do you know, Trish?
Final word to Brad, and then I gotta go.
You know?
I love you too, Antoine. Final word to Brad.
Look, we would have known. We would have known by now if there was a conspiracy to have the Russians intercede in Donald Trump's behalf. How would we know that? This is a town that operates on leaks. The only scalps that the special prosecutor's been able to get are crimes personal to the defendants who pled to him. It has nothing to do with the original charge of the special counsel. And by the way, Antoine, it's a fact. Debbie Wasserman Schultz was your chairman of the DNC. She resigned on the eve of the convention because she was caught trying to rig the nomination.
I remember that all too well. Thank you so much, guys. I gotta leave it there. Have a great weekend. Brad and Antoine.
Jamie Gangel. I mean, this is what they're relegated to over there at MSNBC?
He had to be there. He did it. I think it's interesting he did it because maybe he could have waited to the National Cathedral, and then he saluted. It was
all told about a minute and 15 seconds.
It was somewhat theatrical in nature.
Oh my God! Wait a second. Had Trump stayed longer, they would have said he's trying to make this moment all about himself. They would have absolutely said that. She's over at CNN now. She used to be at NBC doing the softball interviews. She was basically the Bush's go-to softball interviewer. Okay. If Trump went there and spent any longer, they would have said, oh, nice way to interrupt the line of citizens that are trying to come into the event and making people wait outside for 10 minutes instead of quickly going in there and paying your respects, etc. The president handled himself exactly as he should have. So when he does that, he's damned. And when he sends out a tweet where, he hits back at someone who's trashing him, he's not being presidential. So he is presidential, and they hit him for that. Jeffrey Engel at CNN also said this.
I think we need to be a little bit thoughtful and careful about how we interpret what President Trump is doing here. I mean, David Gergen just mentioned that we need to give him credit for not tweeting out nasty things about President Bush. I mean, I'm concerned that we shouldn't give credit to someone for not kicking dirt on the grave of a person who just passed away.
So that's what they're accusing Trump of doing by doing everything he's supposed to do as president. Sending the presidential plane to get him. Telling the Bush family through General Flynn, General... what's his name? The chief of staff, Kelly. God, I'm losing my train of thought, my caboose of thought. So General Kelly makes everything available, Blair House, etc., and then going to pay his respects. And for that, he's not kicking dirt on the grave. They have turned themselves into such pretzels in their desire to trash Trump. They've become caricatures of themselves. This is what this is. And I said last night on The Angle, and I hope you watched, this seems to be in direct contrast to the man that they're eulogizing, who, for the most part, didn't engage in this kind of pettiness. And his feelings were hurt. George H.W. didn't even vote for Bush. He thought, didn't even vote for Trump. He thought that Trump was a blowhard. That's what he said, and he's quoted as saying, I don't even know him, I think he's kind of a blowhard. Oh, so he didn't like Trump. They were very different people. But he also wouldn't have liked turning his own funeral into a spectacle for Trump bashing. You know it's bad at CNN when David Gergen is the voice of reason.
I just say that when he does something like this, that carries on the traditions and does it in a solemn way, does it in a gracious way. The family's very gracious, has been very grateful to him, the Bush family. that we shouldn't question his motives. I mean, he's doing it right. And I think there are times when we should say, hey, he's doing this one right.
I am indeed a cat, and this, indeed, is a hat.
Okay, now we're teasing David Gergen for... Well, we're bringing back all the old nicknames from shows past, since this is the kind of last few weeks of the regular radio show. We're moving into podcasting in the new year. And Cat in the Hat does go down as one of the funniest nicknames for any on-air commentator. See, we were doing the nicknames long before Trump. Okay, Up Chuck Schumer, Cat in the Hat. I have to go back and get all my funny nicknames, but I have a whole slew of them. Long before Trump came along with Low Energy Joe.
I recall Encyclopedia Brown, Obama's old press secretary.
Oh, yeah, Jay Carney.
Yeah, Jay Carney.
Encyclopedia Brown. Oh, where is he? He's just off making money at Facebook. I think he's on the Facebook. He's on one of the big high-tech boards. But does this surprise any of you? I mean, MSNBC is extremely excited because these sentencing memos, and CNN because these sentencing memos of Flynn and Cohen will be coming up soon, but Flynn and General Flynn and who else? A bunch of others are going to come out today. Well, today Flynn is coming out. And so the Cohen sentencing memo, too, will reveal whatever, give some hints as to what Mueller has. So the left is all jacked up on that. Okay. If that's what gets your boat floating at Christmas time, then have at it. But Donald Trump's actually trying to run the country and keep this economy booming, renegotiate trade deals when necessary. And he is having to deal at the same time with this Mueller nonsense. Yeah, and the sentencing memos, again, they would rather have the sentencing memos drop than to have the stock market go up. I mean, they live and breathe based on what Mueller is doing next. You just have to understand that about the other cable networks. But I'm telling you, the media using the death of Bush to bash Trump, and some Democrats, but mostly it's the media, I've got to say. Do you think that this former Bush aide, her statement, I mean, you could do a contest who is the most debased in their statements about Trump. I forced myself to watch a lot of this yesterday as I was getting ready for TV, and I think this one comment for me is probably it's on the top 3 of bad comments.
Steve Schmidt, I think it's fair to say that this moment in our politics is hard on the Bush family and people that served them. The Trumps are expected to pay their respects at the Capitol tonight. This seems to me to be George H.W. Bush's last gift to the office of the presidency, to lift Donald Trump up.
By merely allowing the sitting president to come to his funeral, allowing him to come to his funeral, according to Nicole Wallace, that, and another guest later on, David something, who I don't know who it was, but he repeated it. Oh, yeah, that's a big gift to the Bush family, to the Trump family. Can you tell I got like 3 hours of sleep last night? I'm not feeling well. So it's like, it's a big fat gift to Trump. But isn't that what you're supposed to do? I mean, you're not supposed to be petty like John McCain's group, which disinvited Donald Trump. Man, you can have anyone you want, but if your body is going to lie in state at the U.S. Capitol